Okay, recording started. So agenda for today's meeting, let's do a quick status update, and part of this is just flagging anything that we see as a risk for end of sprint, which is August 14th, so next week. And then we can go into getting an update on IP address for adapters. Sergio was going to cover that. And then use case and deployment overview for the integration work scoping. So Sprint 5 will be focused on integration work for the VOLTHA platform. And then we'll include discussions of ONU into that. And then we'll discuss release and branching strategies and sprints. So from yesterday's meeting, we've identified Sprint 4 and Sprint 5 for the adapter work. So let's work through decoupling the sprints for the platform versus the adapter. And then how we want to handle branching so that we can get the platform out and then get the adapter in place. Okay. And then if anyone else has any additional agenda items, let me know. So a quick note, Sean, you've been kind of interested in the status of VOL 63. That one's done.
Okay.
And then anything else that folks have that they want to flag as a risk for the for completion by the 14th?
Hi, Yen, this is Shad. So I like to, VOL 253 is probably not going to be completed for this sprint, so I like to move it to the next sprint.
Okay, let me pull it up quick.
I can pack out.
Yeah, so so let me know if this affects any other story, any other dependent story. Because actually a related story is processing of flows, and I think that is right now in VOL 252, and that's already in the sprint 5. So I don't think anything would be affected by this by moving it out to sprint 5. But if there is, you know, folks, if anybody is dependent, please let me know.
Yeah, Sean, Shad, that makes sense because the other issue is out in sprint 5, and I don't think there is a tie on the work that we're doing on our side to that one. So we'll just be in touch if it turns out to be otherwise.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
Okay, because we have the flows that we're going to handle as part of Sprint 5.
Yeah, so first it's the flows that are programmed, and then it's the packet in, packet out. So, you know,
and from
we already have the flows is already coming in sprint 5. So, you know, it makes sense for this 253 also to belong there. I have some code ready, but it's difficult for me to test it out without, you know, I'll have to make some extensive changes to PONSIM and things like that to really test it out.
Okay.
Yes, it makes sense.
That's fine. Let's go ahead and move that. And then any other issues that we want to bring up? Okay, let's move on to the next item. An update from Sergio on the IP address for adapters.
Yeah, so I had a discussion with Steve Crooks, and I was trying to get to the bottom of why we needed a device to call back to its adapter. And in the end, it turns out that there's no reason that any device should be calling back its adapter. The adapters should always be making the opening the connection with the device, and not the reverse. And then bidirectional communication can occur over that same socket that gets opened. So the conclusion is we don't need a scheme for assigning IP addresses to adapters or anything as complex as we thought was required. So basically the issue is closed. There's no need to assign an individual IP address and port to every adapter so that the devices can initiate a communication with the adapter, when really it's the adapter that initiates communication with the device, and then bidirectional can occur through that single connection.
Hey, Sergio.
Yeah.
So this is Shad. So I understand that, but I think with this H-core, I think there's a different limitation that requires that that the device initiates a connection to the adapter, and that's because the gRPC C implementation doesn't support bidirectional, so there's a certain limitation. So we can take it offline, but
okay. So can you and I discuss it, because I don't want a generic implementation to support all adapters for an exception, right? So let's figure out how to deal with the exception rather than implement it. It's just a whole bunch of code and potentials for error. That's only required in a single case because of that implementation of a gRPC library. So let's,
I understand. So let's have a call with the Raghu and Suhas. They have implemented the device side, the gRPC, and
okay.
they understand. So I'll schedule something with between you, Radis's. And we can talk.
Okay, just Slack me later, and we'll agree on a time that works.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Just add to Shad's point. I think even the Maple also opens the server, and the device is going to connect to the Maple. Correct me if I'm wrong, because it's going to open the receive handler. So even the Maple adapter also needs this.
Well, no, because Steve in Sienna is using the Maple adapter, and we haven't had any issues with it. The Maple adapter needed it in the past, but Steve tried bidirectional communication using just an adapter initiated connection, and it works. There's no need to have that reverse hack.
Correct. So the current implementation, it does open connections from each side. But as Sergio said, I did try this, and with a very small change, the connection only needs to be initiated from the adapter.
Sure. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. My question now, what about other adapter, for example, the FPGA based, or do they use something in FPGA based OLT, right? Is that because it's in gRPC or whatever, so they don't require this feature is not applied to the different OLTs?
So right now, the only one that I've heard is requiring something special, because the C language gRPC library does not allow bidirectional communication, is the Edge Core one. And the Maple one doesn't need it. And in most cases, I don't think it should be required in any case.
Okay.
Right? I think if you set up a TCP/IP allows bidirectional communication, if some of the gRPC libraries are incomplete, and we have no choice but to use them, then we'll handle them as exceptions. And if it becomes prevalent, then we'll go back and revisit. But right now, it seems to me that there's only one that's problematic, and we'll see how we can deal with it. Because there are multiple ways to do this, and I want to make sure that we pick the most suitable one that's going to be simple to maintain and won't start burning up subnets. You know, you don't want VOLTHA to use 20 or 30 subnets because we've got, you know, all these different IP addresses that we need to manage.
Hey, Sean and others, this is Paul Gray from Tibet. I agree with the architectural decision. I don't see any reason that we should be doing IP addressing like this. So.
Okay, so I think I've noticed that there's maybe an exception for Edge Core, but there's going to be a meeting that Shad will schedule to discuss this. And then my ask is that the team updates everyone over email, and whether this needs to have further discussion at Tuesday's meeting. So maybe just a quick update at Tuesday's meeting. Unless we need to have a further discussion, then please let me know and I'll make sure that we have it on the agenda as a discussion. Does that work?
Yep.
Were they other people want to involve with this meeting? I guess the bigger the more trouble. So
exactly.
I think actually I'm suggesting maybe Raghu and Shad and Sergio, you guys get off now and just go talk now. But anyway, okay.
You know, the problem's pretty exclusive to how the Edge Core adapter will work. So I think we just have to solve the problem in there, and then I think Sergio would agree that other adapters will solve this problem in their own way, even if they have the problem. So we'll take care of it.
Okay.
Okay. So if no further questions or comments, let's move on to the next item on the agenda. So use case and deployment overview. So Sean, the last time we had discussed this, I think the plan was for you to document this and present it to the team.
Say I'm slacking here. Sorry. I reviewed the AT&T test strategy document, and I'm in the process of calling out different scope. So just yesterday I just thought about, okay, maybe we can just because we issued the Srisha actually helped to create a spreadsheet. So I think one thing I need to go back to see which one has been implemented, which one has not. I was trying to do that on the Jira. I couldn't find the way to see all the completed done existing Jira on maybe Yuan, I need to talk to you about how to get those out. But I'm in the process of updating that spreadsheet. So once we do that, then I can have a better idea what can be done, what cannot be done. The topology itself is very. So we can talk about the environment now if we want to go through. But I think most of the participants here is aware about the test environment in AT&T site. So if someone want me to go through that right now, I can go through that. But if everybody has a very good idea, then we can skip that. And I'm trying to see whether I can create update the spreadsheet by the end of tomorrow, and then I'll send out to everybody. Would that be okay? And what I would do is actually probably create two columns. Is one is general, one is Edge Core specific. So in that case, it will be so because what I'm trying to say is because there are two different scope right now because of the Edge Core functionality versus the other adapters that's been going through the phase 2 testing. Yuan, is that okay?
Yeah, I think the spreadsheet and sending it out tomorrow would be good. I think the question you had was, does everyone understand the test environment? So is there value in us going over that? Please speak up if you think so. And then the other thing was, there was also an ask on things like radius, attributes or parameters, and DHCP. So are those also being provided?
Yeah, those are in the I believe those may not be the one, may not be in the one we posted on the wiki in Jira, in the VOLTHA, but it is each vendor has you know, I wouldn't say vendor, supplier community has AT&T's original documentation, has all the radius and DHCP details and the IP address ranges.
Is that what revision of the AT&T test plan is that? Is that revision 2?
3-2, yes.
3-2, okay.
Is this available to the community, or has this been something that AT&T has communicated directly with each vendor supplier?
The stuff we put it on the community probably has some of the AT&T proprietary stuff removed. So I need to go back to see whether those radius and IP address, because those are the information specific for the test environment in AT&T, right? So we might have removed that. Let me do a quick check right now.
Yeah, there was a bunch of sections removed from the version 2 that I saw.
So my only comment here is we have an integration phase, and it's going to require some testing and planning, right? So either each vendor can do this, or we're going to have to identify a more generic integration test or set of tasks.
It would be good to have a documented physical connectivity as well between, so everybody's testing the same configuration, from the compute running VOLTHA ONOS to the Tor, the OLT.
So, Sean, is that in the document?
I believe so. In the most recent release, we shared with the individual vendors. When we update our document, we send it out to all our POC participants. So why don't I do that right now? This because I am updating the version 3-2, and then indicating some of them as a stretch goal for the edge core. Would that be okay? Once I finish that, and I will send that out to the participant of the community, which will come to AT&T Lab. Now I'll update them that version, and then I'll send one to ON Lab also, but we will not put it on the website. How's that?
Is there a version that is scrubbed of details that we want to just do a walkthrough of and make sure that from a connectivity standpoint, the pieces are in place and who will actually be testing them as part of the integration? So I think the plan would be to have a diagram, but not necessarily details in terms of the radius attributes or the specific VLANs, right? Is that something that can be shared generically?
We can go through that right now if you want, and then I think that's a diagram most of people have been seeing in the past many months. Let me take a look at this.
Okay, because the main thing is we should try to prepare for the integration sprint, which will occur after sprint 4. And as part of Tuesday's meeting, I think we need to close out on sprint 4 and start sprint 5. And that part of that discussion is going to include what we're planning to do with integration. So if folks can start putting the stories into the backlog so we can identify what needs to be tested, and if areas are not covered, then we can go through those. So maybe from the diagram, we can map it to the stories that are being added and see where the gaps are in terms of integration at Tuesday's meeting. Does that work?
That'll work. Why don't you give me a presentation right? I'll just go through the diagram very quickly.
Okay.
Of course, I've never done this before. On my screen. Okay. Everybody received this diagram, right? And can you see it?
Yes.
Yep.
So this is just very generic. So we are asking a 2x10 lag between the top of rack switch to our BNG in the lab, and the AT&T server will right now in this diagram, they also connect to the top of rack switch. And the server we have right now is we are providing 4 physical servers to form a cluster, and the management switch right now, AT&T is not going to provide that. So there will be a management switch if that's necessary. I think that will based on each participant whether they want to have a separate management switch, or they want to integrate a management switch with the top of rack switch. And then we're asking, so in doing the testing, we will have 2 different physical type of the OLT. So the OLT will have will be connected to the top of rack switch. And right now, I believe we're asking for 9 ONUs. So the 9 ONUs will be spread among the 2 OLTs. Potentially, one of the OLT will be using 2 POM ports. The other one is 1. Or I think that part of the use case scenario, the tester will maybe they put all 9 of them into 1 OLT when they're testing on the OLT number 1, and then later on, when they add OLT number 2, maybe they will spread it around. So that is the physical topology of the lab environment, and the RG we are providing, and also the setup box connect to the RG. The link between the RG and the ONU right now is 1 gig link. So that's pretty much it. The OLT and top of rack switch, this link rack is not required now. Okay, but the OLT lag to the top of rack switch is not required. We do prefer if OLT have diverse link to the top of rack switch to protect the facility redundancy. That's fine, but we're not going to. So originally, when we talk about rack, the lag is not designed for the available bandwidth increase, but it's just for the link protection between the OLT and top of rack switch. I can, since I'm showing this, okay, on the document, well, yes.
Sorry, Sean. Just for clarification purposes, the colors are different. Vendors are supposed to bring our own TOR as in the previous 2 phases, or are you providing that?
Yes, vendor have to provide their own TOR.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Was my understanding, but the colors are different. That's all. Thanks.
Let me go back. It's still kind of blue. So, okay, you see that the AT&T provide equipment is right.
Yeah. Okay. That was my understanding. I just want to be clear. Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Sean.
Yes.
Links between the TOR and the server cluster, are those, what are those links?
10 gig, I believe.
10 gig?
10 gig. Omkar, are you on the call?
Yes, the servers have 10 gig links, so if the TOR switch is capable of 10 gig links, that should be, the link would be 10 gig.
So do we have a setup similar to this, but using maybe the more generic adapters and OLTs in order to test the integration? I know the EdgeCore adapter work is later on, right? So I guess my question is, in the integration phase, what are we trying to achieve?
Define we.
This team.
I think integration is we don't have a common environment right now, right? So the AT&T, even with AT&T park activity comes in, everybody is bringing the different orange part, a different blue part. So
as the integration phase, each vendor takes the various components, go off and test against their own setup that they plan to use for the POC, and then they come back during the hardening sprint with the bugs that they've discovered as part of that integration week.
Yep. I would.
However, from a compute server, from an ONOS VOLTHA connectivity configuration perspective, ideally we're testing the same, we'll say, ONOS configuration. I know we had one configuration. I'm sure Radisys, Nokia, right? Everybody sort of worked independently in the past. With the changes that have happened to ONOS, I would think we would all want to be testing the same configuration at that point.
So from
I would agree. I think we want the same version of the open source software.
Right.
I would think we would want somewhere in ON Lab probably a representation of a deployment use case so that test goes through independent of each supplier's testing. And then at the end of the integration time period, everybody, just as you said, puts their bugs back in for fix, harden.
Is it possible
to get? Sorry, so I don't know whether ON Lab has the implement set up, and right now in San Ramon, we are in the process of setting this up. We may need some help. I'm building it, but the San Ramon, the MVT room is also, with intent is to be able to provide to the ON Lab as one of their test environments.
So maybe as part of that integration is making sure that the San Ramon lab's up and running, and we have a test case that executes in the San Ramon lab.
So Sean, what is the time frame for getting the San Ramon lab set up?
At least 2 weeks. So.
Okay, I think that's outside the window.
Yeah.
But the good news is it will allow us to run fixes through it, right? So there's the integration part. Worst case, it sounds like everyone's going off to do that testing, come back with the bug fixes. Fixes are in place, San Ramon lab is up, and we run the fixes against that. Does that work?
I'm okay with that, but so I think originally we do. I guess we never talk about. I think at least my idea of integration is everybody, each participant will take this because they have been doing that in their own environment already, right? So whatever bug finding coming back, if they found out, will come back to the community and then have people to resolve it.
Okay, so maybe we'll try to do things in parallel. Worst case, if the environment is not set up, everyone goes back and verifies against their own environment. But in the meantime, I think it would be good, Sean, if we can get this lab set up so that future work can make better use of it, so that maybe by the next release, we would be able to use that as kind of the dev test environment. So everyone is on the same page and we can do integration even earlier. And then the other thing is, in order for us to do this integration testing, is there a minimal set of documentation that needs to be in place? by the next sprint. Right, I'm hearing we should use the same version of open source software, should use the same config. So should this be documented? Or has it been documented somewhere?
We have some software requirement on this one, but we didn't, when this one was released, we didn't make it, based on the VOLTA perspective, or ONOS perspective. We did specify ONOS 1.10. Is that 1.10.3 right now?
Yes.
Okay. And then the VOLTA 1.0 release, and the edge core adapter. So we do specify some of the very high level related stuff here, but I'm not expecting this document was, this one we can define the scope, but doesn't have the detail regarding to installation or how do you get the VOLTA running, stuff like that.
So is everyone familiar with the process? I know that different people and vendors have been working on different functionality. So as part of integration, my assumption is everyone is testing out all the components. Is there visibility into all the components so that based upon what you currently have, right, that you can get started on integration, or are there things that will need to be documented to enable this effort? And I'm not just talking about AT&T, I'm talking about, right, documentation from essentially the component owners. Silence. Does this mean everyone is prepared for integration?
There's also a VOLTA user guide, right?
Is that?
I think the community will need to, or is it a VOLTA user guide or a VOLTA test plan? Help me out here, but
There's a user's guide. I don't know how up to date it is. I haven't checked it. It might very well be completely up to date.
I think that's probably what you would be referring to.
So do we need to get this user's guide up to date?
If it's not, I suspect it needs to be.
Should. That's right.
Okay, for sure, I know we want to have it updated by the time we release. For integration, do we need it in place so that everyone knows what they're doing?
I think, okay, so each participant will come into AT&T with a document about how we can bring the pod up and how to do those. I think each participant, they are creating their own document, at least for AT&T tester to use. Maybe at the end of the it will become after the fact, right? After the release, after the testing has completed, then those documents can service out. I don't know whether participants are ready to share those documents with the community at this point. Is that a fair assessment for the situation of the documentation?
I guess the question about sharing comes down to, do suppliers believe that information in that document exposes or benefits someone else? I mean, that's the honest thing, right?
Well, yeah, well put.
No, I think we have achieved to a degree. I'm already feel very amazed. I'm not. basically break all the existing practice, and then we have reached so far. Maybe we can ask people to go a little bit further. So Yuan, can I take this back and then talk to my support, my participants?
Okay, but I think what we'll want to do then is, as part of the bug fix and hardening sprint, let's agree on getting the existing VOLTHA users guide up to date, right? So that we have that for the VOLTHA 1.0 release. It sounds like as part of the testing effort, each participant will provide their own documentation, but I think there is some expectation as part of the community that this will be contributed back to the community afterwards. And I will leave it up to the vendors and your discretion in terms of what is generically shareable. Does that work? It's in my notes, so we're saying it's it's done for now. Okay, so I think in the meantime, the plan would be to continue getting the San Ramon lab set up with the hope that we can use it as part of future earlier integration in general dev and test effort. So let's move on now to...
I just had to, sorry, just before we move on, this is Michelle. Just want to ask a quick question to Sean. When you say a San Ramon lab setup, I guess that's what you mean is making sure the 7450 and the backend network is ready to go along with your...
They're ready to go.
Your compute server. I'm trying to understand the scope of lab setup. Is it just moving some equipment out so we can move in, or I'm just trying to understand?
The room is totally empty. The MVT room, for MVT, the supplier are responsible for server. We're talking about a separate instance for AT&T only. Do you get the AT&T? We are creating our own pod right now.
Okay.
In our environment. But the room activity is ready for whoever will be bring their pod into Ramon.
So what are you providing in that room? So are there RGs? Is there a
RG setup box and then the connectivity to the network?
Okay, so the 7450.
Right, no servers.
Right. And there are two of those, one in Austin, one in San Ramon.
Yes.
Okay.
And the availability, you're saying San Ramon won't be ready for 2 weeks? Is that what the
San Ramon network connectivity is ready now? It's what I'm saying. The 2 weeks is bring up our own edge core and bring up our own.
Okay.
In 2 weeks you'll have a complete end-to-end, or most of an end-to-end system.
Okay.
With AT&T's own pod.
With your own computes. Okay. In each location.
Only in San Ramon. Austin resources.
And this is mainly at the for ON Lab integration stuff, right? Is that kind of what you're saying, or?
No, at least I hope that'll be the one. I don't know because we're not co-located. I don't know whether ON Lab is going to use it or not. But it's for AT&T internally. We will create our own pod and we'll come ON Lab to come in.
I see. Okay, that's your own setup to do your own testing that you want at your own pace, whatever. Right. Okay, I understand.
Okay, thank you. My understanding is it could be made available to the community also, right, as we start working through the following releases.
Yes.
Okay. So the other item, can you guys see my screen? I reshared it.
Sorry, could I just ask a quick clarification of Sean? So earlier, Sean, you mentioned that there's two sets of expectations, one for the Edge Core OLT and then one for the other vendors OLT. So as we've been going along, there've been some discussions around, kind of deprecating some of the QoS testing and IGMP testing. So is that only for EdgeCore, and the other vendors OLTs will be expected to provide the full test plan capability?
Basically EdgeCore, our expectation for EdgeCore is phase 2, and then everybody else should be phase 3 scope.
Within whatever limitations are in VOLTA.
Right.
We deprioritize some functionality out of VOLTA 1.0, so that's the test plan should reflect.
Yes.
The test strategy should reflect what's currently in VOLTA 1.0.
That's why I need to go back to pull all the complete JIRAs and then update those in my spreadsheet. Okay, well, I don't want. So I think that we got the branching and ONU discussion we need to go through. So we definitely, you know, other I think we need to go address those issues.
So let's start with the ONU so that we can complete kind of the integration picture. And then for release and branching, we also have Tuesday, I think, where we'll close out on sprint 4 and start the other 2 sprints. The assumption is that there would be a sprint 5, or I guess 2 sprint 5s. One would be 1 week for integration on the VOLTA side, and one would be through the end of the month for the adapter. And then we can discuss branching at that point. But the assumption is that by the end of that integration sprint, we'll have branches defined and set up. And I think what we'll want to do is, David, by that Thursday, if you can make available the plans around branching, right?
It's
so
Thursday of, give me a
next
date.
week. Next Thursday would be the 16th. So the sorry, the 17th. So by Tuesday's meeting, what I want us to do is just go through closing out the old sprint. Let's get the new sprint started. I think we've staged things pretty well. Integration, it sounds like everyone is essentially scattering and then coming back with issues. And then on the 17th, we'll discuss branching. And then the following week, we'll pick up on bugs. So make sure bugs are in by the end of that week. And then what Sean and I can look at doing would be maybe to review it, Sean, before the meeting on the 22nd.
Now, I did receive a name from Nokia about an individual who was interested in participating in the how we're going to branch type of discussions beforehand and planning, get involved in that. Haven't received any names from any other people, companies, whatever. So again, if you are interested in having someone participate in that, please email me, unicast me, so I can include you.
I will probably hope I'll join if because I do want to know how exactly the process is being. So I think maybe
okay, I'll include you.
Home card from AT&T. So I will send you the names.
All right, thank you.
And then, Sean, the goal, though, is that this will be rolled up into the meeting on the August 17th. So we'll want David to provide an overview then. Okay, so going back to ONU so we can close out this discussion, what are the plans around ONU as part of this testing?
Tim Marshall, have you be able to talk to Mr. Lee, or is Yong on the call?
He is not on the call, unfortunately. I don't see him on the call unless he's called in. Young Lee, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm having some issues with my, based on yesterday's experience with the muffed call, had the same issue, so decided to dial in instead.
No problem. Very good. Glad you're here. So the discussion to date has been, and we've had some technical requests sent to TNW of whether or not we can, how we could put the TNW ONUs into bridge mode in a way that would support the configuration requested by AT&T.
And the answer on that one, we've had several calls with our team in China. First, let me say that we usually work with individual companies in the community here due to NDAs, and we are in the sense where we do the supply of the ONUs. There are various companies that uses similar items at this point, but due to different implementations, it will be different. It will be used differently. We are in trying to support this community. We are helping in where we get our engineers to help answering some of the questions that Tim had forwarded. We are trying to get engineers on this items. I'm hoping to get some of the answers back from them. You know, we're close to the end of the week here. I did get some commitment of, you know, they're trying to get resources onto this. The explanation, the indication is that some of the items that was sent over might not be doable. And the request to the team was to first glance look at what's feasible, flag the ones that are not back to Tim, and then, you know, and then work the detail out as soon as we can.
So yeah, it'd be helpful to know which of those could be addressed through configuration, which would require perhaps a firmware change. Is that the type of response we'll get back?
That's my request to our team. That way, at least, you know, you guys would know what's doable, what's not. Right, and then if the one that is not, then those are the questions of peeling the onions on how hard is it, what is it required, and then the ones that are doable, then, you know, come back with detailed steps on how to do those.
Great.
Tim, is it possible to share those questions with this group?
I think so. Let me look. I will look at what we sent and see if there's anything in there that's proprietary.
And
I think we summarize.
And I think the goal is if we can use the existing adapter as much as we can. So I think that is the goal. So I would expect whoever has a very good experience on the existing adapter, the name we don't need to mention, help on that. That'd be great. But I think there is a potential. There could be potential. The existing adapter can be used. I think there was one discussion on the VOLTHA discussed sort of related to this issue. So I do suggest many of you pay attention on that. The other thing is I'm still also very curious is the ONU adapter provided by non-Broadcom based ONUs. I wonder whether the VOLTHA will provide that interoperability transparently and will allow the different OLT to work with different ONT suppliers. So that's something I'm eager to find out. Sorry for interrupting.
All good questions. So, Steve, I think that was your question on. I will look through what we communicated and send or summarize what we requested.
Okay, thank you.
But I think the first thing is the TNW ONU will come in as a bridge mode, right? As a SFU ONT. I think that is the that is the main, because I believe the Broadcom had different images. So the SFU ONT with the most recent Broadcom ONU release software, I think that is probably the foundation to get everything started, right?
That would be my understanding. When we switched to using the SFU version, Broadcom, did make known to us there were several OMCI commands that needed to change, just referencing different ME entities.
I hope that will be the and potentially the supplier ID or something like that. But I hope those will be the minimal changes required. So whether to create a separate adapter or utilize existing ONU adapter, I think I think the community can decide what to do. So what I would say is we're not opposing to have a separate adapter in W.
Yes, Sean, that will that will kind of depend on what we see. What we know for sure is that the firmware loads that come from Broadcom for the Broadcom ONUs are just not applicable for the TNW. They have their own firmware and software and load mechanism that they have, in their ONU. So that's not directly usable there. So it may have to have a different adapter. We just don't know for sure yet until we go around with those questions.
Okay.
So just as a data point, we have a group here that's evaluating the TNW ONU, and they were able to send the same sequence of OMCI commands that were sent to Broadcom reference ONU, and they were able to pass traffic.
Yes.
I
think we're seeing about the same thing.
Yeah. So from strictly from an OMCI command perspective, they should be compatible. I agree. It may need a separate adapter just to handle the different vendor ID.
No, I think that will be good. I think that's a good news. But I guess we do. I appreciate people working together and try to get this resolved. And TNW, I think, as far as I know, they're ramping up their production, because of this effort also. So I appreciate that.
So I just want to clarify that statement I just made a moment ago. The commands that were sent, it was not in bridge mode. So this was using the standard gateway image from Broadcom and the image that was delivered on the TNW ONU. But nevertheless, the commands were the same.
Sean, can you confirm your ONU plans for your generic hardware setup in San Ramon at this point?
In San Ramon, my ONU has been. I have one ONU from Broadcom directly, so I'm also trying to get additional ONU from TNW. So I have one ONU which is on loan to OwnLab. So I have no ONU in San Ramon, but
okay, I see. Thank you.
Sean, we can talk about that later.
Okay. Yes. Michelle, you can talk to me later.
Yeah, later than later.
Okay, so I took some notes around this, and I think the question I had is, it sounded like a possible leverage of existing adapter or creating new one. I don't know how this work is accounted for. So if a new adapter needs to be created, is this some work that we'll need to account for in a follow-on sprint? Or is this something that is being done by each vendor separately?
Well, I think there's an epic to cover it under, I think it was under the the Edge Core project, but nothing was really populated in there yet.
So is this something we need to do before the POC testing starts, or?
Yes. I think it definitely will be part of the Sprint 5, and I think this, I would as ONLab, on the ONU side, right? So is the TNW also potentially is part of your reference component there for the core?
Sorry, who's that question to, Sean?
To ONLab.
Chad, are you still?
I'm sorry, I missed that. Could you repeat that?
So on the ONU side, so the ONLab has Edge Core as part of the reference for the architecture for the R core, right? So on the ONU, are you using? I know you have the. Are you using TNW as part of the reference?
No, we don't have TNW. We have two units of the Broadcom ONU. One a loaner from you and one a loaner from Broadcom.
Right.
So that's all we have. And if you need your ONU back, I guess yeah.
At some point, I will need my ONU back, and maybe we can try to get you the TNW also.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know. So Yuan, sorry. So, I believe we need to have an ONU solution by the end as part of the VOLTHA 1.0 solution. So right now, potentially it's not that too much work. So we should include that in Sprint 5.
So so are we agreed that we do need a new adapter, or do we need to have some sort of testing to see if the existing adapter is not compatible? Because I think by Tuesday we should make that decision. So have enough data to make that decision. So is someone investigating that?
Well, I mean, that's what we've been talking about. There needs to be more information to come in back from the TNW side, so we can really, get an assessment of what needs to be done there. So far, it sounds like there's just been some very basic testing to connect, that we've done on our side that connects, the TNW ONU to the Edge Core. We can see it, we can activate it, and do some basics there. And I think Steve had mentioned they've kind of done the same thing on their side, but there's just only been basic preliminary stuff right now. But to try to say by Tuesday we're going to put a plan in place, in my opinion, that's pretty aggressive right now with all the unknowns.
So let's talk on Tuesday about what Sprint 5 looks like. I think one thing we do need to identify is there an investigation spike? Who's going to go off and do that investigation to see if a new adapter is needed? But if we're saying it's needed for VOLTHA, the VOLTHA 1.0 release, I think we really need to have a discussion of what the VOLTHA 1.0 release means.
Well, we had been saying that the adapters, although they're part of the repo, were not, gated by the VOLTHA 1.0 release, right?
Yes, and that's what I wanted to question is, are we talking about it being VOLTHA 1.0 or just a separate adapter release? And if it is, then I think we start working towards it in the adapter sprint.
I think it needs to be part of the adapter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk on Tuesday and then see if we need to create an investigation spike. But in the meantime, it sounds like there are questions being asked, and if the answers can be summarized and provided to the team, that would be great.
And Yon, I'll try to give you a call, but if you can get the answer back to the community, because we have a call next Tuesday, and potentially if that's adapted, we can also discuss that on Wednesday. But I think if we can get answer back from TNW by Tuesday or as soon as we can, then that'll be great.
I've been having almost daily call with that team, okay. And as with any communication, we're trying to get answers back as soon as you can. Let's talk. I will definitely push and get some answers back. Okay. Tuesday, if I see any problem, I'll let you know.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. You're welcome.
Okay, I think we're good for this meeting. I'll note kind of the things that we're planning to do next week. So next Tuesday, the agenda is going to be working through the release branching strategies, but closing out Sprint 4, working through the integration Sprint 5, as well as the adapter Sprint 5 and what we're going to do there. Stories are mostly in place. It sounds like just the ONU adapter will need to account for. And then Thursday's meeting, we'll talk through the branching plans. So once we're done with integration, we need to get a support branch. So David Bainbridge, I assume we'll have offline meetings and then bring the overview back at the Thursday meeting. So that's the plan for the next 2 VOLTHA calls. Okay?
Right.
Okay.
So Yan, I have a question about owners integration. Epic, there are a few, actually quite a few stories in that Epic. Do we have sprints assigned for all of them? When do we plan to have all of them complete? Is there like some sort of an outlook?
They're not all assigned to sprints right now, I believe. Most, I think put it this way, I think most of the issues required for POC 3 that are code related are covered. The ones that aren't, I don't think we allocated yet into a sprint are some of the versioning stuff that we're trying to do. Jono and I are working on so that we can get better consistent versioning of the ONOS apps, more accurate, as well as that'll help with some of the branching and release planning that we're planning to do. Do you have anything in particular that you're concerned about?
No, I mean, I was just looking at the backlog and wondering when like integrators can actually start using the new ONOS apps and, ONOS 1.10 right today. So is that already pushed to the Docker file.onos to use the latest
I have a
apps?
patch set that I'm got a patch set right now that I'm been working in the background to get pushed up, which will update the Dockerfile.onos. So it actually adds another Dockerfile.onos too, so you can create a Docker file from your local build, not just pulling it down from the Git repo. So you can do local changes for edit cycle quicker. This patch set includes that, the update to the normal Docker file, as well as the version updates so that the applications are accurately have a 3-tuple version number.
So David,
hopefully
that's great.
That'll get pushed today as soon as I can, and Jono's gonna do a quick check on it and merge it. The only real question risk around it is the cord tester stuff. There's a lot of assumptions in cord today about all ONOS applications having the same version, which just isn't realistic. And so some of those changes in the cord tester may be a problem.
Okay, yeah, we'll look for that patch set. Thank you.
I'll add you as a reviewer.
Okay.
Okay, so I think, Sean, maybe we can sync up offline to see from an integration standpoint if there are explicit stories we need in that sprint. And then please feel free to, discuss on the mailing list or send me notes as a community if there are things we need to account for. I think the main thing at Tuesday's meeting is to kind of work through that also. and figure out what we have left that may need to be pushed out. So we'll meet and discuss then. Okay, thanks everyone.
Hey Yuan, can you stay on a little bit? Can you show me how to see all the completed tickets?
Okay.